Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. Gosh, I'm glad you guys are with me here today. And first off, I want to thank Betty for emailing me yesterday and asking how I was. She's a fan of the show. She says she listens all the time. And I just really appreciated her concern. I'll tell you guys a little story, and I'll tell you what I told her in a response by email. Sunday night, I was sitting here in my place in Petaluma, California. I was feeling very sorry for myself, very, very sorry for myself. As a matter of fact, I was making one of those life-changing decisions in the moment, which I thought I was going to stick to. I thought I was going to quit all my radio shows, quit doing the MUFON meetings anymore, quit everything I do, and get a real job and make some money. I mean, that was my thought. I was laying in bed. I was in tears, by the way, and I was holding both cats. And we just scraped enough money together for kitty litter. I mean, it's like, you guys, I'm going to go on a little sidetrack before I go on to the complete rant here tonight. I live in the most expensive place in the freaking world. I swear to God. I live right north of Marin County. When I lived in Marin County, that was the most expensive place in the world. But now I live in the next most expensive place in the world, and that's Sonoma. And, I make good money. If I lived anywhere else in the United States, I'd live in a mansion, I swear to God. But I live in a mobile home park, in a senior mobile home park, in a manufactured home that's the size of a closet anywhere else in the world. And, it blows my mind how much money I spend per month just to stay in this place. It's mind-boggling. But that's my decision, and I made it, and now I got to suffer with it. And I keep asking my angels, I keep saying, why do I have to stay here? Can't I go north? I want to farm, I'm like, can I go back to Oregon? I'm just like, please let me out of this. I feel like I'm in prison hell, right? And they keep saying, nope, this is where you got to be. And I'm like, and then, okay, so I'm laying in bed Sunday night, and I'm complaining to my angels, or aliens or whoever they are, that said I got to be here for this community I'm supposed to build. And I'm like, well, if I'm supposed to build it, how come it ain't happened yet? I'm just freaking out about the whole thing. And I'm ready to give it all up, right? I'm ready to just, sell the place, go buy a mansion somewhere else. But the trouble is, I will never get paid what I get paid now to go live anywhere else. So there's that problem too. So anyhow, I'm laying here feeling really bad, and just like, I'm going to give it all up, the whole bit. I fall asleep and I wake up to the smell of a fire burning, and I'm like, what is going on? And I just look out the back door, and it's just a fog of smoke and ashes falling. And I'm like, did a volcano go off? Because now I digress again. Back when I was in my early 20s, I was living in Portland, Oregon when Mount St. Helens went off, and that was a wild experience. So I've lived through a volcano. Now I've lived through a firestorm, because what's happened is I'm in Petaluma, and right north of me is Santa Rosa, and Santa Rosa was hit really hard. Not many. Let's see, how many friends? 1, 2, a client, a friend, another friend, and another guy right now that is a colleague, his house is being threatened right now as we speak. Long story short, people have lost much, much, much stuff in the last few hours over here. It's the wine country. We've lost some wineries. We've lost tons of neighborhoods. I mean, it's absolutely amazing what this fire has done. If you don't know anything about it, just look up Santa Rosa, Santa Rosa, Rosa, fires. And it'll just tell you what's going on out here. We've got wildfire after wildfire. So anyhow, Sunday night, I'm sitting there feeling sorry for myself. I wake up to all this ash and everything going. I can't breathe. It's just terrible. And then I go, something's going on. Duh. Because I don't watch the news. So, I'm not a 24/7 Fox News person like my parents. So I'm sitting here and I turn on the news, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, I'm surrounded by fire. And people were calling me, and they were saying, hey, we're at Walmart. You want a fire extinguisher? I didn't know what they were talking about, and it was my friends joking with me, but still I was like, what the heck? So bottom line to all this, I quickly snapped out of my funk, And then I just thought, there's no reason for me to be, feeling bad for myself. So I got out of that. And I want to thank Betty for emailing me and helping me get out of it. And I just, it's, people have lost everything. And I'm sitting here complaining about the fact that I have a great job. I can afford to pay for kitty litter at least once a month, and I can feed myself, so that's more than a lot of people can do. So I do have to thank my aliens for that, because my angel aliens, because the bottom line is, folks, I would not even be in this house right now if it wasn't for them. This place that I'm in was a once in a million opportunity, and I got it. And that's the honest truth. And someday I'll explain it all to you guys. But I mean, it's a long story, but man, 23 and a half years in a place I hardly had to pay anything for. And then I end up being booted out because the landlord dies. The kids want to sell the house for almost $1 million, and I couldn't afford it. So, the whole bit, it just got crazy. So anyhow, I'm just lucky to have what I have and not have had to live in Kentucky or somewhere. That's all I can say. So anyhow, well, now what I really wanted to rant about tonight was not the fact that it took me over an hour and 15 minutes to get up the freeway, which usually takes me 15 because of the traffic, the police. I mean, I was passed by about 10 police cars, 2 fire trucks, an ambulance. Let's see what else was going on. It was crazy out there tonight. So the fires must have turned. The wind is whipping up again. So I think there's a lot of towns in danger. Calistoga is probably going up in flames. And, I haven't even looked at the news all day because I just don't want to know about it. I'm at that point where, I just don't want to know. So, I'm trying to avoid it at all costs. Well, after the radio show's over tonight. So let's move on to the topic that I really wanted to talk about. Let's talk about this whole Tom DeLonge thing. Oh, my God. Okay, I have so many views on this. I didn't get a chance to listen to his spiel this morning because I had other things to do that were much more important. But I did see the website, and I did read Bassett's take on it. I read Leslie Keene's take on it. I read the website. I read the prospectus about to the 5th page of, invest in our company. I did as much research as I could last night before I went to bed. And you guys, I don't know. I don't know what he said today. I heard it wasn't disclosure. I did check Facebook to see if Grant Cameron and a few of my other buddies that I rely on for information had anything to say about it, and they all did. And even Chris Bledsoe, another contactee, said, "Oh, I'm kind of happy about the whole thing." And I'm just like, you guys, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed. I'll tell you why. How many other people have created organizations like this? We've had NICAP, MUFON, Avros. I mean, the list goes on and on. We got Free right now doing all the research on the contactee stories. We've got, oh my God, there are so many organizations that have popped up. And yes, this one at the helm has a guy who has some money. Okay, that's great. But so did, oh my God, Bob Bigelow. He had money. He had enough money to buy all of the NIDS, to create the NIDS ranch thing and do all the research into that. And I noticed, very interestingly enough, 2 of the people that I think are probably the best in the know about what's going on actually in the whole alien UFO community and the secret space program and everything are on their team. And that is Colin Kelleher and Hal Puthoff. The rest of them, I don't even know if they're contactees. I don't even know if Puthoff is or if Kelleher is, for that matter. That was the part that really bothered me about the whole team thing. All these scientists, all these remote viewers, all these, quantum physicists, everything's great. How many contactees were on that panel? Why wasn't Whitley Strieber on the team? Why isn't Travis Walton on the team? Why isn't oh my God, Cynthia Crawford? Oh, by the way, she's passed on, but if she was alive, she should have been on that team. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't get this. This is just another group of people trying to control the narrative about what we're allowed to know. They're going to make movies and books, and they're going to do this whole thing. That's wonderful. And then you're going to sit there and we're going to do scientific research, and we're going to have, we're going to fund people's projects. Well, who decides what projects get funded? Hey, Tom, why didn't you fund my community of telepathic contactees? Why didn't you fund that community? Really? I'm getting, the more I think about it, the angrier I get. There are people out there that are doing amazing, like, research. It isn't scientific research. They don't have PhDs, and they certainly aren't, they don't have a whatchamacallit up their rear end to make them so scientific that nothing can be true, Oh God. Okay, I better calm down because I knew I was going to get this angry tonight. I've been struggling. I know about 20 other people that are really, really good. I would say we sit on the fence. We don't jump over to the contactees and say, okay, you guys, you're the only cat's meow that's going on. And we don't jump over to the scientific community and say, oh, yeah, the UFOs and the hard-nosed science and the propulsion systems and all that's the only thing going on. I sit on the fence and I talk to everybody. And that's how I make my conclusions. I mean, I've got friends, you guys know this, Patronus is a very good friend. He is a very adept scientist. As a matter of fact, he should have been on that panel. If we're going to mix science, here's who I would have picked for that panel. Stephen Bassett, Patronus, Whitley Strieber, Travis Walton, let's see, who's another good female contactee that's out there right now? Oh, Melinda Leslie. How about Melinda? How about get some My Labs people in there to tell you what's really going on? And Misha Johnston. There you go. There's a panel for you. There's people that could do some amazing. Misha has been trying to start a school for starseed children in Vegas now for 5 years. Can't get the funding. Bringing Hal Puthoff, that's great. Lynn Buchanan instead of Hal Puthoff. Sorry, Lynn Buchanan's a contactee. I don't know that Hal Puthoff is. Okay, sorry. I'm starting to get really, really angry. I mean, I know people that have amazing projects in the works that are contactees that should be having Tom DeLonge knocking on their door, begging them to let him fund what they're doing. That's exactly how I feel about it. He should be knocking on my door saying, hey, I heard you're trying to give Stephen Bassett at home, and all the other guys that have been here for 40 years, breaking their neck and have nothing to show for it and are homeless, and you're trying to build them a place to live. I heard that's a great idea. I want to help you do that. That's what should be happening. Okay. Told you guys I'm really pissed. And I'm eating Brock's Mellow Cream Almond Mix made with real honey. Trying to keep myself sane here. Okay, well, I better stop now because if I keep yelling about this, I'm just going to break a blood vessel or something, or maybe my blood pressure is going to go up. I don't know. Anyhow, so it's been a tough couple of days since Sunday night when I found out Monday that a lot of my friends have lost everything. I have a friend named Cole. He's a WordPress guy that I work with, and I haven't seen him for a while, but his wife and he are having their first kid, and they've lost their complete house. I mean, it's unbelievable what's been happening up here. It's scary, folks. I've never been anything like this in my entire life, this firestorm. And it's just been a real eye-opener for me. And I thank God. I wake up every day now since Monday, and I thank him for keeping us safe. We're right in the middle of it, and somehow it hasn't touched us. And I just thank him for keeping us safe. So it's amazing. Here's one other quick thing. There was a mobile home park up in Bennett Valley in Santa Rosa that I was thinking about moving into, but it was just too far of a drive. And guess what? The whole thing's total. I mean, there's 100 mobile homes there, and I think all of them burned and only 6 were left standing. So I thank God I didn't move into that place. That was my second choice. So, oh my God, you guys, really, seriously, God was looking out for me. And, one other thing, 4 years ago, I was thinking about buying in the coffee area, the coffee community, they call it. And that completely burned to the ground too. So I'm really glad that didn't pan out. I was still under the impression that my landlord was going to sell to me at the time. So when that opportunity came by, I let it go. And something just told me not to do it. It was a great opportunity, and I said no. And here I sit. So, God has been looking out for me. I just thank him. And I thank all you guys for praying for me that knew about what was happening. So thank you so much. Okay, so let's get to our guest tonight. We have Dr. Richard Boylan with us. And Richard, I'm being a really bad host tonight, flying in the door at 1 minute before this show starts. And I've got to go find your bio here. And I had it all queued up, but then my computer system shut down while I was at work. So I came home and I'm sitting here and Skype was off. Everything was off. I'm like, oh no. So I had to boot up real quick. And so I'm going to go looking for it. But in the meantime, why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are, how you got into the UFO game, as I call it, and what you've been doing lately, and if you got any programs that are coming up or anything exciting that you're just kind of digging into right now.
Well, I'm a retired psychologist and I would say a student of the UFO phenomenon since I was a small boy. I'm old enough to remember before there was a UFO cover-up. I remember when it was announced in the paper on radio that Army had recovered a flying saucer. I said, oh, neat. There's other people in the universe besides us.
Cool.
And then when I was in 8th grade in 52, the subject was such that there were flying saucer clubs in my community and all across the United States, where people would sit in their lawn chairs in their front yard after dinner and watch for UFOs to come over. The subject was totally legit then, but then the UFO cover-up came when it was determined that people were getting a little too excited about this, and the government didn't like that, so they started to hire scientists to speak discouragingly and sarcastically about the subject and anybody who took it seriously. So it's kind of went underground for a long time. And that basic effort to cover up has been going on ever since. I've worked with experiences of extraterrestrial contact for many years, and talked to, I'm sure, over 1,000 people, and used the tools I have, including hypnosis, to help people recall encounters that were suppressed from active memory, and piece together what was really going on. And this got me in a lot of hot water. And
wait, I was just going to say, now, how long did your practice go with that going on?
Well, it went on for about 8 years, and then they dropped the safe on me, and the commission in charge of granting licenses pulled mine, and they did it in a very public way that was designed to intimidate any other psychotherapist from similarly going public with what they had. I know there were a lot of colleagues I had and still have. I would say I've talked to over 100 people, therapists who work with people who've had close encounters. And the vast majority of these encounters are real. They're not made up. They're not the product of mentally disordered minds. They're
absolutely
telling what's really happened. But this, the authorities landed on me really hard and just tried to discourage other people. But therapists I know just got a little more quiet about it, but still continued to talk to people and be available. So that is the situation for the longest time. I've had dealings with a lot of star visitors, as I call them, and a lot of information I've gotten. And I'm going to jump right to the punchline of what's coming up in the very near future, because I think your listeners will find it very interesting. And that's that before long, there's going to be a public demonstration of star visitors' presence in the skies over 5 major cities. And this will end the UFO cover-up.
Wonderful.
I'm in communication with some of the star visitors, and they said, per your request, we're going to get a number of large spaceships and blanket the skies over 5 cities all at the same time, and we'll do it for almost a whole 24-hour period. And after that, people will not be able to say there's no such things as UFOs. The cities picked are these 5: Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Nashville, Tennessee, Monterey, Mexico, and London, England.
Wow.
You can imagine the skies over these 5 cities just blanketed with UFOs and them staying there, and not just zipping overhead, but just staying there, bobbing in the air, if you will, for maybe 20 hours. After that, the government's not going to be able to say there ain't no such thing anymore.
Yeah. Hey, I got, did something, okay, sorry, MJ, I was looking at something just popped up, and I'm not even sure what it said. Oh, break. Oh, okay. Thank you, MJ. Sorry, Richard. I am so discombobulated tonight. I didn't even have my IM open up so I could tell my producer was staying to me. So there we are. Okay, so we're going to skip our bottom of the hour break because, you've just brought up a whole bunch of really amazing things to me. First off, I want to talk about what they did to you. And we don't have to go into detail because I've already done my research on you and I know what they did to you, but I want you to know something. I was the administrative director of Marin CAMFT, CAMFT, and I know all about CAMFT, and I know all about these organizations since I was in charge of 450 MFTs in Marin County. And I know the psychotherapy world really well because I work for one of the top psychotherapists in the country right now. She's a Ph.D. She's an amazing woman. And I have conversations with these people all the time about, and I casually bring it up to them at all the events I go to with all the MFTs and all the PhDs and psychologists. And I say to them just casually, hey, by the way, how do you treat your patients who come into you and say they've had alien contact? And to a T, they've all told me, and nothing against them, this is just what they've been trained to believe, they, to a T, tell me that they're all schizophrenic. And I, to a T, tell each one of them that maybe there's more to it than you think. And then I walk away because I don't want to get myself in trouble too. But I know how ruthless these organizations can be. The Board of Behavioral Sciences in California is a bear. I mean, if you do one little tiny thing wrong, or if they even perceive that you're talking out of turn according to how their guidelines are supposed to be, you are squashed. And I was around for the Wendell Stevens fiasco. I was around for all the fiascos. I'm currently around for the Stan Romanek fiasco. And I know what these organizations, as well as the federal government, in the deep, dark recesses of their bowels will do to people like you. So I just want to let you know, whatever happened, I don't care, because I know that just talking to you and hearing your voice, I know that you were not the instigator of anything that they tell you or anybody reads about that they might have happened. So anyhow, I just want you to know that, because these guys are ruthless, and people don't understand that, do they, Richard? How ruthless these organizations that want to keep people quiet like yourself, quiet. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't kill you, to be honest with you.
Well, the California Board of Psychology didn't try to kill me. They just killed my reputation and my career.
That's
but
right.
There are other people behind the UFO cover-up. I mean, people working for what we might call a shadow government who have done things, taken shots at me, tried to run me off the road, and all manner of harm, trying to induce illness or injury. These people are very, well, vicious is the correct word, yes.
Absolutely. They're vicious, they're horrible, they're abominable. I mean, they're satanic. Let's just put it that way.
So, but their game is up very soon. When this aerial display over 5 major metropolitan areas happens, that's going to be the end of it. They can't say there's no UFOs anymore. And then we're going to have to come to terms, and this is what I think is exciting. We as a Earth society are going to have to come to terms with the fact that we're not alone, that there's peoples from other star systems aplenty in the billions, that a number of them have come to visit Earth, and in fact, we even have 2 settlements of people from the stars on Earth, keeping a low profile, but they're here. And our government and other government major powers have known this for decades. A lot of people don't know that in 1964, there was a gathering of the 4 major powers to form an agreement with the star visitors. This is all hush-hush. And I'll tell you the four governments involved: the United States, the Soviet Union at the time, the People's Republic of China, and what was then called the Council of Europe, which is roughly equivalent to the European Union today.
Yeah.
They met in underneath a mountain in the Guadalupe Mountains of northwest Texas, and the deal, an agreement was signed. Basically, to cut to the chase, the agreement was that the major powers would stop trying to shoot down UFOs that came to visit, and in exchange, the star visitors would let them have knowledge and some understanding of some of the advanced technology that the star visitors have, which these countries and the corporations they represent very much wanted to have. So this agreement was signed, and of course the ink was hardly dry when the Earth governments promptly ignored it and went back to trying to sneakily shoot down UFOs whenever they thought they could get away with it.
Right.
That's 53 years ago that these major powers signed an agreement with the representatives and star nations, and yet they keep going.
Let me ask you, Richard, which, not to interrupt this part of the story, but I do need to know a couple quick things before we finish it. Who are the 2 species that are here now? And who was the president that was in charge of that contract in 1964, or was it even the president knowing about it? So, yeah, those are my 2 questions.
All right. Well, let me do the second one first here.
Sure.
There was the preliminary meeting in 1960, and Dwight Eisenhower was the president at that time. Since then, he was out of office by the time of 1964. Kennedy was the president, but he was not at this meeting because Lawrence Rockefeller edged him out of the way, which shows you who really runs the country. People think it's the president, but it's the Rockefellers and other big financiers. And he appointed himself to represent the U.S. at this meeting.
Now, you're talking about 1960, though, right? Not because 1964, Kennedy's dead, so.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, he was assassinated in 1963, but the setup had already gone underway. But in fact, I think the people behind the cover are behind the assassination of him as well. But they put their own person in instead to represent the U.S. in this four-party meeting and agreement with the star visitors. So they that went forward. Now there's two groups that are in long-term residence on Earth, two-star visitor species, if you will. The first is, it's actually three. One just arrived. The one that's been around the longest was what we call the Sami. These are people from Barnard's star who look perfectly human. The only difference between them and us is we have I think it's 32 teeth and they had 26. But other than that, you couldn't tell them apart. Because they came from a weak-dim star, where their world was cold, when they came to the Earth, they wanted to live in the northern climates because they're used to cold living, and so they lived above the Arctic Circle. We call them Laplanders or Sami these days. They've done a little bit of intermarriage with Europeans, but the original ones still have that condition of fewer teeth than humans that have dentists scratching their heads when they deal with them.
Now, that's very interesting. I never knew this. This is really interesting stuff. Do they have a different blood type as well, like the Basque people do?
I don't know that detail.
Okay.
The other group that's been around for a while are the tall whites that are in residence in what we call the Nevada test site, Nevada National Security Site in Nevada. And they live near Indian Springs, which is in a valley surrounded by mountains. I would say it's about 15 miles southwest of Area 51 on the other side of the range, closer to U.S. Highway 95. And they've lived there for a long time, and they kind of mind their own business, and the government is aware of them and leaves them alone. There's been some contacts. In fact, Charles Hall, who was an Air Force man some decades ago and was assigned to the range, talks about seeing some Air Force generals get aboard one of their craft and go for what we might call a joyride out past the moon and so forth, and then come back. And there's been some exchange of technical information on the part of the star visitors in exchange for the American government giving them supplies, because it's a long flight back to their home world. So they're in the Nevada desert. And the group that just arrived here most recently are the Ultramarines. They come from a dying star, and it's going to go supernova pretty soon, so they had to get off there. And they asked for and got permission to come take up residence in the U.S. And so they have done that last year, to be specific. And they're in residence in a very remote location in the desert part of Utah, southeast Utah, out in the Red Rock country.
You're basically saying they're up near Skinwalker Ranch.
No.
Oh, okay.
Nothing
Not quite that far? Okay.
Way far south. closer to the New Mexico line.
Oh, I gotcha.
So those are three groups of extraterrestrials, if you will, star visitors, I call them, who are in residence on Earth, finding their own manners and quietly present here. And everything hasn't gone to hell. Everything hasn't fallen apart. All the horror stories about evil aliens that the propaganda mills crank out are false. And in addition to these groups that are quietly here enjoying life on a stable planet and star system, we have many other races coming in and out all the time, as the people you and other researchers have talked to who had visits can tell that there are different kinds of folks that people describe as making a visit to them. It's hard to tell how many different races are involved, but certainly in the dozens, many dozens.
Oh, yeah, at least. I would think so. Yeah. So let me ask you this, Richard. How many of these, those three beings that are here that you know of, have you been in contact with any or all of them?
I met a Sami woman, Laplander, whatever you will, at of all things, a UFO conference, and of all places in Hawaii, where she was present, and she was a very lovely lady, and she knew I knew a lot about contact with star visitors, and so she quietly acknowledged that yes, they're here, and she was very nice about it. The tall whites I have not. Well, I'll take that back. There was an international symposium on star nations in Rome, Italy, in 2008, and one of the tall whites look just like us, except where there's in our eyes, where there's a white field in our eyes, it's black in their eyes. So they kind of
Seriously?
off that. But other than that, they look 100% human. So this guy was wearing sunglasses, so nobody could tell what was behind the glasses, what his eyes looked like. And he was sitting in the audience towards the back, and I spotted him. And I think he had a woman companion, too, there. And when I was giving my talk, I acknowledged that, the star visitors aren't just some theoretical idea. We actually have a couple in our audience here. And I didn't point them out. I didn't want people to mob them or go nuts or whatever. So I played it cool, and he played it cool. And it was quite an experience to have a symposium on star visitors and who should sit in the audience but a star visitor. So that's
exactly.
And
how tall was this guy? Was he 7 feet, 8 feet tall?
No, he was sitting, so it's hard to estimate. I think he was certainly under 7 feet, probably 6 foot something. Probably high numbers.
Yeah. Very interesting.
That's the whites and the Sami, and then the third group, the Ultramarines. Well, I had contact with one of the leaders of the Ultramarines. However, she changed her appearance. They don't look at all human, and if she was around with me and anybody else is around, they go ape about it. So she changed her appearance to look like a human. Okay. I could tell from her energy and the circumstances of I knew she was coming that it was her, and she was an Ultramarian, but anyone looking on would say it's just a human woman. So that appearance changing can happen if it needs to be for their protection and safety.
Right.
So I would say I've met one or more of each of these resident groups, and of course some others too. Out at Area 51, I had some help from my Zeta friends, but
so now, well, then tell us a little bit about your Zeta friends. That sounds very intriguing. You were talking about the Greys now, right?
Well, that's what some people call them. They were doing a little favor for me. I was doing some research back before anybody else was about what was going on at Area 51 in terms of UFOs and human manufacturing of anti-gravity craft using technology borrowed from UFOs. And this was very dangerous work. And this was 1995. And what was going on, this is before anybody else knew about Area 51 as having UFO connections. And they just thought it was a high secret advanced airplane testing base, which is still is some degree, but that's almost covers for the real stuff going on. But one night I was out there, and the people from the security company, those nice, rugged individuals, well, the Blackwater types.
Yeah.
I went into on that Groom Lake Road, dirt road, towards the base, trying to see how far I could get. And I did see some U.S. anti-gravity craft lift off and fly along the ridge line. So I did succeed in that. It was very dangerous, though. There's a degree of high security. And in one of my forays in there, they took a shot at my tire, and I had to limp all the way to Las Vegas and get a new tire, which is a very long drive. So
I've done that drive, I know. It is a long drive.
So I came back at night under cover of darkness and turned my headlights out and kind of crept along the road a ways to watch for some more. And the Zetas helped me out by, as they do, they turned their craft into the appearance of a car and came along the road with big, bright headlights, following behind where I had come and turned into Area 51 and Groom Lake Road there. And the guard people who were keeping an eye on the whole thing, I turned my lights out. All I could see was this other car, quote unquote, come along, pull in, stop a little bit, and then turn around and go away, which provided the cover that they figured they didn't have to worry about anything because wherever it was, they'd gone on their merry way down US 93 back to Vegas. So that was one way the Zetas helped me by providing a little cover for my presence. And they come by another time when I was at Rachel one night and put on a little show for me. They turned their vehicle into the appearance of a giant semi-truck with all big glaring headlights and overhead lights on the top of the cab and all that. The only thing is, right behind the cab, there was nothing else. There was no trailer. There wasn't even the back hitch. So it was a very strange appearance.
Yeah. You know what? I got to interrupt you for 1 second. The audience is kind of going, yeah, right. I got a few of those always. And I got to tell them, this isn't the first time I've heard this, folks. I heard about a guy that he thought, his guys came to him in the guise of a Lincoln, another Lincoln Continental with the doors that open, the suicide doors. I thought that was the most amazing story I've ever heard, and he swears to this day that's what they came in. And they basically were surrounding this car, but it was really a spacecraft. And I'm telling you, folks, a semi doesn't surprise me at all, Richard, at all.
I got a better one for you. This is how they showed me how they did it. Later on, I'm going down US 93, going back towards Las Vegas. It's at night. I see this very bright light on the left, up, maybe 2-3 miles east of the highway, up near almost where there would be some hills. And this very bright light sitting there. I'm maybe 10 miles off, doodling down Highway 93. And I watch it, and then it starts to slowly descend. I said, oh, my God, this UFO is going to land. And it got down to the sagebrush level, and then it started to come sideways towards the U.S. highway. I figured at the rate of speed I'm going, the rate of speed he's going, we're going to converge just about. And,
okay.
He gets my undivided attention. So I'm watching this as I'm driving down that tree, and this bright light that just finished coming out of the sky vertically, slow descent, and then horizontally along the top of the sagebrush towards US 93, gets out to the road and turns and starts to come towards me in the oncoming lane. And it's really bright, so, like I'm coming headlights on high and even brighter than that. So it's really hard to see what it was until it got very close. And when it got very close, there was a late model 4-door passenger car. Looking at all the world, ordinary as anything else. The only thing I know is that passenger cars don't hover up in the air and drop slowly to the ground and come across at sagebrush level for a couple miles and then get onto a highway. So they showed me how they do shape-shifting to move from Starcraft to what looks like a regular U.S. issue car that you wouldn't look twice at.
Isn't that amazing? And I'm telling you, Richard, people don't get it. One of the things that is so amazing about how they control our minds is that possibly you were, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
Maybe if somebody else was with you, they might have seen a different car, or maybe they would have seen the UFO. It just depends on how they're controlling your mind at the time. You see what they project for you to see. You hallucinate what they decide you're going to hallucinate. And it's mind-boggling to me how it happens. As a Ph.D., do you have any idea how they're doing this? I have some ideas, and I want to hear what you think is the process for them being able to take over our visual cortex and how we actually perceive everything they're throwing at us. What do you think?
Well,
I know that's a loaded question, by the way, so if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to.
All right. I don't know if there's some extraterrestrial technology. I'm certainly not an expert in that. The simplest explanation is I think they have very powerful mental telepathy. And mental telepathy, when it's cranked up, is capable of being hypnotic. And it's very possible that they mentally, telepathically communicated the message that you will see a conventional 4-door Ford driving down the road. And if it's transmitted strongly enough, and if there's a kind of a hypnotic energy accompanying, a person can go into mild trance state and see what they're telling you you're going to be seeing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to take it one step beyond that. I'm going to take it into the fact that I think they can, through telepathy, as you're saying, also tweak the frequency patterns of how our neurotransmitters fire. And I also think that the main way into our skull for them is through our optic nerve. Because one of the things I've been studying is the fact that I don't know any blind contactees. If you've ever run across one, please let me know. But I'm trying to find one. I'm trying to find somebody who is blind their entire life that is a contactee, and I can't find one.
Well, I don't know offhand of any.
I know, it's interesting, huh? I've asked a ton of people, and I'm going to be asking it on all my radio shows here, going pretty quickly forward, and all my websites, because I think it's a very interesting proposition that if they can't look you in the eye, every contactee I've ever met said, no matter what they do, the time they controlled me, they were looking me dead in the eye. So, interesting thought, huh?
Yeah, well, that may be a technique, but I do believe that they are capable of transmitting telepathically without being even in your physical presence and still get a...
I agree. I think that is a Zeta thing. I think it's a gray thing, because everybody that I've talked to that's had that kind of contact has said they have to look me in the eye. It's funny, or they say to me, it's funny, they always seem to be looking me in the eye, when they control me. And I talk to people that have contact with angels and aliens and different frequency reptilians that don't appear to them but just talk to them, and they say that they can make them see things and do things just by their telepathic communication, and they don't even have to be physically there. So, there's many ways this happens, but I think you're right. I do agree with you on that. I think they can just telepathically talk to you. I mean, I've had them telepathically talk to me and say, pull over and get in the right lane and keep me from dying. So, so there you go. Nice. Yeah, they were very helpful that day. Now, I wish they could conjure up cat litter. That would make things a lot easier for me. Anyhow, so I'm telling you, life is funny, isn't it? So, okay, so now you've dealt with these guys. Now, on that trip home, was that the last incident, or at that point were you taken, or what happened?
Well, I've been to Area 51 many times, and I've had missing time a couple of times at least. Once I took a carload of people from a UFO convention in Vegas up there because they were all hot to see what Area 51 looked like. Of course, all you could do is go down the road a ways until you get to the warning signs and the guys sitting in pickup trucks above you on the hill ready to pounce if you go any farther.
That's right. And they've done that to several of my friends. I have I have friends to prove it, that they got pounced on and got sat in the hot sun for 4 hours waiting for the sheriff to come pick them up. It was ugly. Anyhow, Go ahead.
So we had a missing time episode because when we got to Green Lake Road, the entrance to Area 51, looked at our watches, and I know how long that drive takes. It was different. It was much longer. So we said to each other, boy, we've had a missing time episode here. It wasn't clear at the time what happened on that missing episode. From dealing with other ones and from dealing with people who've had them in their own encounters, I have a rough idea that one or more people in that car were taken up into a craft and talked to for a while. But that's a conjecture. The memory of what happened on that during that missing time was not available to any of us at that point.
Oh dear! Now you weren't able to take them and hypnotize anybody?
Well, the condition didn't lend itself to that. They were on a hiking trip. By the time we got back at the end of very late in the evening, into the wee hours, we had a conference the next day. Nobody would want to spend any more time up trying to get a little sleep they could before next day's conference. So that didn't work to do that.
Yeah. Interesting. You know what? I got a question for you, Richard. Did you call me this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, or at 7:45 tonight, my time?
Well,
I just wanted to make sure that was you that called because I was stuck in traffic and I couldn't get my phone.
Yeah, it's me in Pacific time too.
Yep. So there we are. Okay, good. Then I don't have to worry that it's my sister looking for me to make sure I'm okay still. Hey, by the way, just off on a crazy subject, are you surrounded by any of the fires that are going on up in your area?
Not really. I live in El Dorado County, and up above us, near the crest of the Sierras, there's a high mountain lake, and there's a fire near there. It's not too big. It's national forest. It's not a town like Santa Rosa, and it's of moderate size. I assume the fire people are getting on top of it. But I tell you what, we're eating the smoke downwind from all the fires in Sonoma County and the other counties that are.
Wow. Yeah. So it's pretty bad. I've been trying to tell people how bad it is. They don't get it. So. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. And, we're here on Inception Radio Network, the home of the most amazing app. I hope you guys have gotten it. I hope it's installed on your phone, whether it's an iPhone or an Android. It will go on either one. And it will remind you that you need to be here for all the shows on Inception Radio Network, not just mine. There's many other great shows. Dr. Rita Louise and Heidi's here, and MJ's here on Sunday on Pang Radio. We've got all kinds of great shows for you, so don't miss them. And even Jerry Pippin's here in Posterity. I can never say that word right. Anyhow, he's here still, so we love Jerry, and he's still hanging with us here on the Inception Radio Network. It's kind of cool. Every once in a while, I catch his voice, like, oh, God, Jerry, what you doing? And I'll start talking to him. It's so cool. Anyhow, I just love that they keep playing the shows, so that's great. And let's see, what else is going on? Oh, and become an insider. Become a member of the Insider Club. It's only $5 a month, and you can join us and hang out and support us, and it'd be really wonderful if you did. So please do that if you can. And I want to thank Mike Vara over at Late Night in the Midlands, and I think even Gene Chip Tatum is still trying to play my show over on Veterans Truth Network, and I do hope he is. And if he is, wonderful. If he isn't, well, you guys should listen to it anyhow. It's a great radio network too. So there you are. So thanks everybody who replays my show, and thank Inception Radio Network for letting them do it, because there's a lot of places out there that won't let you, by the way. I don't know if anybody knows that. And I want to thank MUFON. I just want to thank them for being around. In spite of all the craziness, I still think MUFON is one of the best games in town. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to say it like I say every week when I can remember to do it. Don't forget to get to a MUFON meeting near you. We had an amazing meeting last Saturday. It was our first Saturday of the month, and if you're in Northern California for the first Saturday of the month, please try to make it to our MUFON meeting. I always have somebody interesting speaking. I think next month, I'm not quite sure who it's going to be. I've got some people I'm asking. We'll feel it out. It's going to be a very good event. Make it a day if you need to. Come on down, spend the night at the Motel 6 down the street, and just hang out with us and, just have a great old time. I mean, people just turn it into a whole day, and then they get up and they have a great brunch at one of the great restaurants in town, then head on home on Sunday and take their time and enjoy themselves. I would say go to one of the wineries on your way home, but I'm a little concerned that a lot of them have burned up. So, I'll keep saying it because they're not all gone. I mean, only a few of them are gone, but God, a couple of my favorite ones are gone. It's just so sad. But anyhow, point to all this is, get to a MUFON meeting. Please share your experiences with other people of like mind. It's very important, and MUFON is a great way to do it. And that's by joining a group near you. You're making everything that we talk about on our radio show stronger, and you're helping, just get the word out there. People are waking up. Disclosure has already happened, folks. It's just that some people just don't want to believe it. Trust me, I know, because my dad finally admitted to me in the car driving home from the airport one afternoon, oh yeah, I think there's aliens and I think there's UFOs. I said, well, after all these years of poo-pooing me whenever I bring it up, he goes, yeah, but it's nothing we can really talk about. He's right. There's nothing for people who aren't contactees that know it. to talk about it. So it's hard on them to relate to us, and it's hard on us to relate to them. So I want you guys to get to a MUFON meeting near you. Talk to people who've had experiences like yourself and share. That's what it's really all about now, is sharing. Also, hopefully my website's going to be done soon. I really hope so, you guys. I'm so busy. I never have time to work on it. But if I do get some time this month, I'm going to be putting up some new groups that are starting, not the Tom DeLonge group, but new groups that I think are very important that I think you guys should be joining. And you can be a member of MUFON and join them too. So that's wonderful. So look for that on my website in the next month or so. Let's shoot for November 1st to get my site up and see if I can make it. How's that sound? If I tell everybody, I kind of have to do it. So that's my website is lorienfenton.com, Lorien Fenton, FENTON.com, and also get to MUFON. That's MUFON.com. Find out by clicking on Get Involved, I think it is, or find a chapter and see if there's a chapter near you. If there is not, my final part to this whole spiel is this: if there's not a chapter near you, offer to create one. It'll change your life. That's all I can tell you. It'll just totally change your life. Okay, you guys, thanks a lot for listening. Okay, enough of the commercial break. So, Richard, are you still with me?
Oh, yes.
Wonderful. So far we've talked about the different species that are here. We've talked about the tall whites living in near Area 51. Talked a little bit about your experience with the semi that, was a bright light that turned into a semi, and missing time out of Area 51. So what I really, really want to get out of you tonight, if possible, in the next hour, is what is your communication with these guys? I know they told you that they're going to be over these cities soon, but how long of a relationship have you had with them? What kind of relationship have you had? Is it more of a Whitley Strieber type of relationship, or is it a little more, just ordinary? What's ordinary in a relationship with an alien? But you get my point. I mean, is it complex? Does it ruin your life? Has it made your life better? I know I could tell you stories about what it's ruined my life, but Alice's made it better at the same time. So it's so bizarre to even sit here and think about it. And you being a Ph.D. and all the things that you've done in the past, and your accreditation and everything, you must have it down to a science how this is relating to your life. So can you explain that to us, or is that too much to ask? It might be too much to ask.
No, that's fine. I'll just give you a quick history of my experience with UFOs and star visitors.
Cool.
So,
okay.
I told you about how at the beginning of the modern UFO era, the cover-up hadn't been invented yet. So my mind was pretty open. But everybody else that came after me, the door had shut because the official government says there's no such thing. Well, fast forward to about 1975. I was living in Marin County at the time, hiking on one of the hills there with a friend, and this little silver disc, it wasn't so little, but it was a couple thousand feet above us, just sailing along silently and slowly. It was very clear it wasn't an airplane. You could see it was round and is moving too slow to be an airplane. Didn't have any wings, and if it did going that slow, it would have dropped out of the sky because you got to have a certain minimum speed to keep going as an airplane. So it's clearly a UFO. And I said to my friend, "Well, by golly, this is my first actual UFO sighting." Okay, well, fast forwarding from there. I was a mild-mannered psychologist in private practice in San Rafael, California, for a number of years. And one day, a person came to me and said, "You're probably going to lock me up in the loony bin when I get done with you, doctor, but I got to tell you," and he went on to talk about his close encounter with this star visitor. And I had studied ufology for many years, followed it in magazines and heard people lecture about it and all that. So I was open-minded, and of course I'd seen my own UFO, and I was aware that the Roswell UFO crashed and it made the papers before the government hushed it up. So I was open-minded, and he spun a very interesting story, and he was kind of a notable person in Republican politics in California. So this wasn't somebody who fell off a Cracker Barrel. This is a very sober citizen, and so I decided, well, if there's one, there may be more. So I put a little notice in the local Sacramento paper that I was, a psychologist willing to talk to people who had close encounters with star visitors. And people started coming out of the woodwork, and almost all of them were very sincere, and many of them very nervous, figuring talking to a psychologist is a sure ticket to go to the state hospital, but that didn't happen. I heard them out, and almost all of them were of sound mind and quite sincere, and I learned a lot about encounters from talking to these, at the time, got up to be about 100 and more later as I went on the lecture circuit with UFO conferences. But so that went on. Then I got involved with a Native American elder standing out from the South Dakota Sioux who held a Star Knowledge Conference and shared knowledge of the star visitors and their many centuries of contact with Indian people. And so that gave another dimension to things. At some of these conferences, there were star visitors there trying to look like humans, but sometimes you can just pick up the energy coming off a person. You know they're just not 100% human.
Boy, I'm telling you, I totally agree with you, and I'll tell you why. I was at a conference, and a woman came in the bathroom with her dog, and the dog had piercing blue eyes. This woman had piercing blue eyes, and I got this hit from her that was like, hello, how are you? I'm not from here kind of thing. And I'm freaking out because I'm hearing this lady's voice in my head. And she's just smiling at me, washing her hands, looking dead at me.
Boy, bingo. That's it.
That was the strangest feeling I ever had at a conference. So, but yeah, is that what happened to you?
Yeah, more than once. But a little experience of this, we all have an energy field around us humans, like a magnetic energy field around. But the star visitors have one that's much bigger and more powerful. When they walk in a room, if you're dialed into that energy level, you say, whoa, that's not just regular folk over there.
That's right.
So,
absolutely. Yep. So anyhow, so you're on the circuit and you're meeting these star beings at these events. Were they there just to see you?
I wouldn't say that. Clearly, the tall white that was at the Rome conference was there to hear what I had to say. But no, various other, the experiences, people who've had close encounters and have kind of developed their understanding of star visitors tend to have these repeat contacts. And at some of these UFO conferences, the energy of all those experiencers in one place, I think draws in the star visitors because it's kind of very compatible energy with them, and people are on the mentally same frequency that they are. So that tends to happen more. I'll tell you one little funny thing at the Second Star Knowledge Conference in Dakota. I went out to get some fresh air during the conference, and it was growing very dark out there. I was walking around just a little bit getting some air, and all of a sudden, I looked up from I was kind of looking down at the ground, watching my step in the deep dusk. And I look up, and I'm right at the edge of a very large herd of elk. These are very, tall deer. They're taller than a human.
Yeah. I've seen herds of elk, yeah.
And I'm 6 foot, and they're higher than that. I say, whoa, I hope they don't spook and trample me, because there were many, I would say 30 or 40. And I didn't want to turn around and run. That would be right and might spook them. And so I just kept going at the slow, even pace that I had been going at. And they just parted like, the Red Sea parting before Moses, just each side. And I just kept walking through the group. And then when I got past, they reformed behind me. I got back, and then I went back to the conference, and I told somebody that and said, there are no elk like that around here. So I sat there and thought about it. It's those Zetas who are very funny jokesters when they get in the mood. And since Standing Elk was the Indian chief in charge of this conference, they decided, well, we'll give Richard a real dose of elk here. So they turned themselves into a whole herd of look all the world like elk. He gave me a little experience of that.
Now, I just want to, people are going, well, maybe Dr. Boylan can't tell the difference between a real elk and an alien elk. And I'm telling you, folks, this is the funniest thing that he's bringing these stories up tonight, because over the years, I had a lady come up to me. Oh, and it's on People of Earth, too. You guys, okay, this is so interesting you're bringing this up, Richard, because I had a friend who came up to me and said, I swear to God, there was a whole family of deer out front of my house when I pulled in the driveway, and they all just stood there and stared at me with these big eyes. And I said to her, a whole family of deer, huh? She goes, yeah, a buck, a female deer, and a baby deer. And I said, really, 3? She goes, yeah, and they had these big eyes, and the eyes weren't quite normal. And I'm like, oh, really? And then a few months later, I ran into her again, and she goes, Lorien, I think I was abducted that night. She goes, it took me forever to get in the house. It took me almost an hour to get in the house. And I said, what happened to the deer? She goes, I can't remember. So, so now, just for yucks, did your elk have strange eyes, or did they look normal, or could you even tell?
No, look normal. And I've seen real elk both in the wild and in zoos, so I know real elk, and these look all the world like real elk. But they were different. For one thing, they didn't spook. An elk herd would spook if a human got close to them the way I did.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Or they'd run you. Yeah, they'd try to kill you, too. That's the other thing they do.
Well, I was worried about that.
As you should have been.
These elk had a certain kind of energy. It's a very peaceful, powerful energy. And it wasn't energy you normally get off a wild animal that you happen to get near.
Yeah.
So I did a retrospect, and I said, by God, that was my old Zeta buddies pulling a fast one on me. They're having a little humorous prank on me. Because that energy that they sent off was not wild animal energy. It was star visitor energy.
Wow. That's so cool.
So that's a litmus test about, if you're not sure whether something that's really odd is is just an odd thing, or whether it's a star visit or setup situation to see if you're paying attention, check the energy field.
Yeah.
And if you have any experience working with either very strong Earth star seeds, like you, like me, and some other folks, or extraterrestrials, star visitors, once you get a hit on that energy field, you know what it feels like, and when you're near it again, you can tell.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think everybody that listens to my show, not everybody, but there's a good portion of people that listen to my show that are contactees. I can guarantee you that. I hear from them very often, and they always say, God, Lorien, thank God you're there for us, because, one of the things, Richard, is, as you know, the biggest problem is you say something like, I ran into a bunch of elk and they were starseed. 90% of the people you would tell that to on a if you were at lunch in a restaurant somewhere, they'd all listen to you and think you were a crackpot, right? So
right.
The problem we've got is that people aren't willing, unless they've had some kind of strange experience themselves, to just sit and listen to something and take it in as, maybe it could be real, maybe it isn't, I don't know, but it's a very amazing thing if it's real. And then to be open to it to happen to them. And I think that's 90% of the problem we've got with the kids growing up right now. People always talk about how open-minded and starseed they are. Well, I'm not seeing that, Richard. I'm seeing a bunch of kids that are being really manipulated by the system, and they're getting vaccines, and they're falling into the money trap, and there's, they are so close-minded to anything new that it's even showing up in the social media. Where, for example, there's a TV commercial where a guy says, okay, we got to go see your aunt. And his child he's 15 or 13 or something, and he's getting in the car and he goes, yeah, my crazy aunt who feeds, sees aliens or something like that, to that effect. And he goes, yeah, we just have to humor her, and then they all get in the car to go see her, and I'm the crazy aunt, And so I just kind of go, this is like really so bizarre to me. When I was a child, growing up, even the nuns in my Catholic school, even the I don't know how to describe it. Everybody wanted knowledge, and they didn't judge where the knowledge came from. People were eccentric back then. You could be a crazy old professor running around the street screaming the sky is falling, and people would go, okay, Mr. Smith, where's the sky falling? And they would humor, but also at the same time take him seriously, because they had respect for the fact that maybe he knew what he was talking about, And people have lost that. They've lost that whole inner child, like, okay, maybe it's real. Maybe I should pay attention. They just poo-poo everything, and it's not real anymore. Have you noticed this, or am I just kind of like crazy here sitting in this little mobile home in Petaluma, California?
Well, the incessant hostile propaganda against UFO reality is certain. You're not imagining that has been going on, continues, and it really is annoying.
It is annoying. It is, seriously,
and it's fucking the truth. And I get on my crusade that people have a right to the truth, and the goddamn government and the other people behind the UFO cover-up are denying people their constitutional right to the truth.
That's right. Absolutely. What would you... Yeah, go ahead.
And people who've had extraterrestrial encounters, they're turning them into these pariahs, these crazy people that are to be looked down on. And, we're mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore.
Absolutely. Now, have you been following the Stan Romanek case at all?
Well, I met Stan in Rachel. Yeah, he's the real deal.
Oh, tell me about it. I still to this day, this whole pornography charge, the whatever.
They always make that up when if they can't find anything else on a guy, they make something up just to discredit him because he really talks very convincingly of his encounters.
Well, that's true. He does, and so have all of my other friends. I don't know if you remember a woman by the name of Misha Johnston. You may not. I don't know. She's very active in Southern California for a long time, and then they tried to kill her like 3 times, and she left the community for 15 years. She's been back now for about 4 or 5 years, thanks to, I would say, me and her friend Melinda Leslie, and she's back talking again, and thank God she is, because, seriously, they tried to kill her, but no one knows about that. No one believes it. No one cares. It blows my mind that people have no idea how scary being in this community can be. And, they laugh at us, and I don't understand it. I really don't. Why do they have such cognitive dissonance against people like yourself or Melinda or Misha or anybody that's being targeted, basically? I don't get it.
You're questioning why this campaign is going on against people who've had encounters?
Well, yeah, I'm questioning that, but more than that, why don't people believe us when we tell them these things are happening? That's the part that kills me.
The short answer is a capital S with 2 vertical bars through it.
Yeah, you got it.
Huge amounts of money it has been made by the confiscation of extraterrestrial technology. They shoot down UFOs, figure out gradually how some of their stuff works, and then sell it, patent it, turn it into advanced weapon systems or advanced aeronautic systems, and billions and billions, tens and hundreds of billions have been made now in advances. Going back to things like the computer chip, and just one example. No, Bell Laboratories didn't invent the computer chip. Bell Laboratories back-engineered extraterrestrial material from crashed UFOs and developed a copy of it, figured out enough of how it worked to develop a copy of it for a device that made the old tube radio obsolete. The new circuitry of the silicon chips just completely revolutionized our world. And that's just one example. And lasers is another. And on and on.
Yeah.
And the people behind the scenes who are keeping the UFO cover-up going and the denial of UFO reality and ET reality are making megabucks by the little game they have of shooting down UFOs and plundering what they can find to get live extraterrestrials, torturing them for their technical knowledge, and then making billions off of it. It's quite a little game, and they're not wanting to give it up. When I talk about people, this racket is what's made Lockheed Martin and Boeing and McDonnell Douglas and Raytheon and a lot of the big corporations that have just mushroomed over the last 40, 50 years. They just don't have just the bright people working for them. They plagiarized extraterrestrial technology, pretended it was human, and made billions of dollars peddling it. And they want to give. And if UFO reality comes out in the open, and the story comes out of all the plundering and shooting down they've done and the dirty deals they've done and the torturing of visitors, somebody's going to pay, and they're very anxious to keep the UFO cover up. And now you know at the very, very bottom what what is behind the UFO cover-up and who's profiting from it and why they won't stop it.
Well, and absolutely, I totally agree with you on this. But what I want to know is, I mean, this, I don't know, you didn't follow the Tom DeLonge thing that's going on right now, you told me. But he's starting an organization that is going to be looking into all of this. And he says they're going to be looking into all this. He says he's also starting an entertainment company along with it that's going to make movies and books and God knows what to go along with disclosure. And he also says that he's going to fund projects that he and his team of scientists think are worthy of the, digging into the whole UFO community and free energy and that type of thing. So,
Mark,
yeah, go ahead.
I don't know Mr. DeLonge personally. I've just seen on the internet that he's an entertainer who is not afraid to speak out about UFO reality, and I say more power to him.
Yeah, no, I agree. But what I'm a little concerned about, and maybe this might, pull your chain too, is the fact that he's suddenly deciding what and who and how the narrative is going to be given and spoon-fed to us again. Every time I turn around, there's an organization deciding what we can and cannot know, and what we can and cannot fund, and what we can and cannot understand. And I got these scientists to prove all this, right? And what bothers me, and like I said this at the beginning of the show, is this. It's very simple. Why aren't these guys funding, instead of a whole board of scientists, why aren't you on that team? Because you're a contactee. Why aren't you on that team? You're closer to the aliens than that science. 5 of their scientists are. You can talk to them. Why isn't Lynn Buchanan, who did talk to them, for the government, sitting on that board? That's what I want to know. How did they pick these people? They picked them because they wanted to be on the board? I don't even get it.
Because they look good. They look like they're qualified scientists. But
exactly.
They're safe because they won't give away the real UFO reality.
Then what's, again, another organization that's going to keep the real truth from us? That's what it's basically going to turn out to be. I hate to say it.
Well, I hope not, but there's been a lot of that.
I know. See, I'm old and you're old, and we've seen it come and go and come and go. And I'm just, the younger people are kind of like, oh, Tom DeLonge, great. He's going to change the world. And I'm thinking, well, isn't that what they said in 1964 with my Arcturian guys? Or what about Adamski said that from the Space Brothers in 1956? And even, God, who else? Every one of them has said this type of thing, and I'm just like, okay, I'm just, I guess I'm too old and too much dirt's been thrown on me already, I guess. I don't know. But I do wish him well. I really do. It's like, there's a whole guy out there by the name of Corey Goode, which you may or may not know about, Dr. Boylan, but, what was that?
I heard a little bit.
You heard a little bit. Okay, well, I seem to be one of the ones that got a bad rap because I said some bad, not bad things about them, just not, I think what they are were truthful things about them. And so now I'm a horrible human being because I opened my mouth, right? And, but, he's doing the same thing. It's like he's the savior of us all now in the UFO community. And what these guys don't understand that you and I know, everybody's been a savior for the UFO community, but nobody's done the job, So we're all still sitting here waiting for the real truth to come out, and it's just not happening. No matter how far they get, it just never happens. And for my money, Dr. Boylan, it should be people like you and people like Lynn Buchanan and people that I know have done the real work with the aliens. You sat and talked to them about it. What's going on? Whitley Strieber, definitely. People like that. People who've had contact on an ongoing basis should be the head of all of these organizations. But what's funny about it, and you and I probably both know this as well as Whitley, is that there really isn't an answer that anybody's going to like when the truth is told. And because it's very personal, everybody that is a contactee, in my opinion, has a very personal relationship with their ETs or their interdimensionals or whatever it is they're in contact with. And it's very different for everyone, isn't it?
Yes. I think, however, once the UFO cover-up comes apart, and that's why I'm very much looking forward to this aerial display the Star Nations are going to do very soon. Once that comes apart, then all the experiencers, all the people who know UFOs are real, are going to be able to come together, because suddenly it's going to be legitimate to talk about this stuff. Suddenly it's going to be legitimate to admit you've had an encounter. And people will turn from throwing spitballs at you to instead starting to ask, well, so you've met one of them. Tell me more. I want to know about it.
Absolutely.
What a revolution that's going to be. That's going to be a big revolution.
That is. It's going to be wonderful. You know what I considered that when that day happens? I consider that my retirement. Because that's the day I get to stop doing the battle. And, basically that's what they told me when they spit me back here when I was about 30 years old and said, you've got work to do. You can't go yet, I was like, no. And so they let me slide until I was 53 years old. And then they said to me, well, your vacation is over. Guess what? So here I sit. And if you've had the calling, I'm pretty sure. I had the calling. There's a lot of people out there who have. And the problem is you just can't you can't just walk away, because it's not time yet, as you and I both know. And so I'm very excited about these 5 city landings or sightings or whatever you want to call them, or disclosure sightings. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
So when do you think it's going to happen, Richard?
Well, they said soon. Of course, when an extraterrestrial says soon, you don't know which time frame they're working in, but I think it isn't going to be very long. But consider, once these fleets of spaceships hover over these 5 cities for a day, and that'll be covered on national, international television, and if they try and stop that, everybody's got a cell phone. They can take video and live transmit to their friends and to friendly networks. It can't be kept secret. And once that happens, we're going to have a cultural revolution in this world of ours, because all of a sudden the world doesn't stop at the edge of planet Earth. The world is the cosmos, full of many, many peoples, some of whom have come to visit. And we're going to go out there one of these days ourselves, some of us, and visit them. And the world stops being planet Earth, and the world starts to be a highly populated galaxy full of people that in some ways are just like you and me. They have feelings, thoughts, and families and aspirations. And that's going to be a revolution. And I think it's going to help us move beyond the petty fights we get into over this or that piece of territory. It's like kids in a sandbox fighting over whose pail of sand is going to be on top. The reality is much bigger and wider than that. And a lot of the petty skirmishes we've been embroiled in are going to seem just that, petty and pointless, when we realize there's really important new horizons developing now. We've got a whole new interplanetary reality to start to wrap our minds around, and lots of people to meet and learn things from.
Well, now, you know what I forgot to ask you is when these 5 ships are over the cities, are the aliens inside of them, or the ETs, or the Nordics, or, whatever there are going to be piloting them, are they going to come down and say hello too, or are they just going to hang out?
Well, these are fleets of craft. This first aerial sighting is designed to end the UFO cover-up. I do not have any information that the people inside are going to come down to the ground and walk around.
Well, and they probably, my suggestion is tell them, Richard, not to, because they'll just get shot upon. I mean, at least the first time, right?
Well, here's how I understand it's going to go. First of all, the 5 cities are going to have their fleets of large spaceships over them. And then a really large mothership is going to come over the United Nations headquarters in New York City and hover very low, like around 4,000 feet above, for a day. And out of that will come a star visitor, at least one, maybe 2 or more, in dialogue with the President of the United Nations and eventually with all the delegates. And that will be televised, or at least people will get it on their cell phones and squirt it out to the world. And after a treaty of peace and friendship is developed with the UN, which is the point of this mothership coming, then arrangements will be set up for people of goodwill and star visitors to get together and meet each other and start to get really acquainted, so that becomes an experience for the human race.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I say to myself on a daily basis, being here as a human, that I must be an extraterrestrial that got shoved down here to have a human experience, because I'm telling you, I do not understand how they can kill each other like this. It's just amazing, Yes. It just blows my mind. I can't. Since I've been a child, I cannot understand it. It's like my heart doesn't get it. I mean, I get angry. Don't get me wrong, Richard. I get angry and I get pissed and I'm I'm whatever. But I guess I'm just a true Italian, because all I do is kind of explode on the spot energetically, and then it's all gone. So I don't understand the whole, like, killing people. I don't even understand how you can go into the army and then do it and then think it's okay. I it doesn't make any sense to me. I've been trying to wrap my head around it for 60 years. I swear to you, I don't understand it. So anyhow,
you may well have been a star visitor or star person in a previous incarnation. One of the things that all the star people agree on is that reincarnation is a reality. The idea that you live one life on Earth and you die and that's it, that's not true.
No, not true at all. Yep, that's it. Yeah.
Spirit, the core of what makes us who we are, doesn't die with the body and can go on and come back and have another life in another body at another time. And we got a lot to learn as a human race about the real reality of what it is, how it is out there, and what life is like. And these people who are visiting us are not bothered by all the superstition and bad propaganda and lies that have been fed to the human population. They can share with us the way it really is to be alive and grow in peaceful societies. So we will really benefit from those dialogues once it becomes legal to believe in UFOs, once it becomes legal to accept that there are star visitors and and to be interested in actually meeting and talking to one.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, so that's a great, we got about 12 minutes left in the show. That's a great place to talk about here near the end of the show. And that is, what do you think it's going to be like when they come down here and start hanging out with us? Do you think they are actually going to give us the technology we need to turn this place into a beautiful, amazing planet? Because right now, Richard, I got to tell you something. I drive down the streets of Oakland or San Francisco or even San Rafael, and I look around me and I see an infrastructure that was built in the 50s that is almost, it's almost 55 years old now. I'm going on 60, and some of it a lot older. And I don't see us getting any cleaner, nicer, better, or advanced in the way we think about communities living together and people living in proximity to each other. We're still in this old mundane thing of tract housing and, what have you. And that is not conducive to health. I mean, it's just not. And I don't get why we have these cities with 3 million, 6 million, 10 million people living in them. That is not the way that should be on this planet at all. So I'm still trying to figure this out. And if the space people can help us with that, man, I'm ready for it. The Space Brothers, I call them that. It's my favorite words for them. And one of the reasons why I say that is because back in the day, I heard about one of these tall whites taking one of the engineers from Area 51 out to, I can't remember where it was. And he said he gave him this a brick of this like alive metal and called mu metal or something like that. I can't remember what they all called it. And he put it on the ground, walked away from it, and he thought it into a spaceship. And then he let it go back to what it was. And then he let the scientists figure out how to use his mind to take that piece of organic alive material and turn it into something else. And they have the capability to do that. So, here we sit. We sit in a world that is hard-edged and unmutable, and these guys are able to create, beauty out of a molecule. And we can't do that yet. And I wish they'd come here and help us.
They will. You just have
they
to make
better.
It have to make it safer. Do you know that there's 12 environmental scientists from the planet Altamar that came here to Earth in 2008 and are going around to different places on Earth trying to undo the environmental damage and get things restored?
Oh my God. Isn't that amazing? Are they fixing Fukushima?
I don't know which projects they're working on. I was there when they landed, but they've dispersed to various places to do, each have different technical specialties. And they're trying to reverse some of the environmental damage, but of course, humans are pumping as much garbage and filth and pollution as fast as these guys can try and clean it up.
I know.
We got to partner with them and get with the program to turn the world around environmentally with some sensitivity and caring for Mother Earth, or else we'll be our own doom.
I know. I totally agree with you on that.
Small project of 12 scientists is nice, but once the UFO cover-up ends, a lot more can come here and feel safe to operate out in the open and work with teams of human volunteers to do environmental remediation projects. And they've got the technology to really do it well and much more rapidly and thoroughly than we know how to. So I'm sure lots of environmentalists on Earth will volunteer to join those teams and work. So we have to create a climate where it's, first of all, it's legal to believe that there are extraterrestrials. Number two, that they're the kind of people who can help us, that we ought to look to work with and try to improve our world. So we have an exciting possibility out there. We just need to move from here to there. And the work you're doing of spreading consciousness and what I've tried to do, and anybody else who's had a UFO sighting or an extraterrestrial encounter, it helps. But I do think it's going to take something dramatic like that 5-city sit-in by spaceships to take the lid off, and then we can get down to some very serious and good work.
Yeah. Now, do you have direct communication with the 5, the people that are manning the 5 ships that are coming in?
Well, I mean, I use telepathy like anybody else, but I know who's on board, if that's what you mean. And I think this will be the final mind blow of the evening. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm ready. We got 6 minutes. Blow my mind.
Well, let me back up one square and say that one of the major important things the extraterrestrials are coming here to with the knowledge of is that it is of a correct spirituality, and they would like us to correct the distortions that we call religions and get down to a genuine, simple, pure spirituality, because we are spiritual beings as well as physical beings, and if we operate on good principles, we can be highly spiritually developed and morally developed. Mm-hmm. The star visitors have been here before, one and then another, and some of the master teachers they've sent among us, looking like humans, and trying to teach people to live higher and better lives, more moral lives, get rid of superstition and live by high principles. We know them as what we've been taught to say are the founders of various religions, but they didn't come here to found any religion, and any religions that are going on are corruptions of what they tried to teach. But on that large mothership that's going to hover over the UN, and later on the people inside are going to come down to the ground and talk to people, are the people we have known as Zoroaster, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Mother Mary, Isis, Sekhmet. In other words, some of these spiritual
ascended
figures.
Ascended master types, yeah.
And these were star visitors trying to teach gentle, simple, high principles to live by, and to understand one's relationship with God. And as soon as they went away, humans got into the act and turned it into a lot of elaborate rules and organizations and real estate and all that. But they're come back to try and clean that mess up and say, no, you got it wrong. Let's say it once again, what we really came here to teach. They have 11 universal principles and 11 spiritual principles that all the peoples of the cosmos agree are the core high principles one should pay attention to when trying to live a good life. And they will come back and repeat those 11 principles again, and really try and bring us to our full potential of full spiritual development without being bogged down by man-made religions.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Man-made religions will go out the second they're over those 5 cities and your guys show up eventually, religion is going to be gone on this planet. We will become a one consciousness type of human, if we're still considered human at that point, because I think once our consciousness evolves to the state of, we get rid of the anger, the violence, the genetic problems. I mean, I'm sure that they'll fix our genetics so that we don't have these tendencies to want to, cannibalize each other. And, once that happens, I think it's going to be, smooth sailing for the humans. I really do hope so. And just one last question for you here. We got about 2 minutes left in the show, and I'm in the chat room right now, Richard. And Neutron, he says he has one burning question for you. He wants to know if the entities that you're in contact with have helped any other planets before helping us. And he wants to know, and if not, why us first? Good question, Neutron.
Yeah, it's a good question. We're always so Earth-centered. No, the star visitors don't just sit at home playing chess. Many of the star peoples have roamed the universe. And when they come across a world that's developing intelligent life, they try to help it along, as they did many thousands of years earlier on Earth. And we're still an ongoing project, but we're not hardly the first. There have been many thousands of intelligent life planet civilizations that have been nurtured along by the star visitors when they come and make contact. It's sort of like a Peace Corps, a spiritual Peace Corps. So that's a good question, Neutron, and that's the facts of that.
Yeah, great. That's wonderful. Well, Richard, it's been an absolutely blessing to have you on the show tonight, because it's been a wild ride for me this week with the fires here in our area. And you live close enough by that you get what's going on for me. And I really do appreciate that.
Yeah, my heart's to all the people who are facing those fires. Be of good strength.
Yes, we are. And you used to live in Marin when I was living in San Rafael. You were living in San Rafael. I'm surprised we never met. Did you ever go to the bookstore on Luton Street, the metaphysical bookstore?
Oh, I'm sure I did.
Oh, I'm sure you were there probably at the same time I was. We're all doing our shopping back then, because that's the only place we could go to get any information on UFOs or anything. So, but anyhow, Richard, thank you. Thank you so much for being on. You've been a wonderful guest. And everybody out there, thank you for listening tonight. I want to thank MJ for being at the helm as usual, and IRN for all the great work they do and getting my word out there and getting my show out there. I do appreciate it. So you guys have a great week. And we'll be safe here, I promise. The kitty cats, no matter what happens,